Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the HYM podcast. This week, you're hosting it wise. It's just me and Jake, and I'm in a bit of a foreign location, sat in the van. So, whereabouts are you, Jake?
Well, I'm in the hotel still, near to where we do the sim for Formula E with Mercedes. So I'm still here, loving life. I won't tell you how long or why, but yeah, I'm still here, and you'll probably guess.
Great. Yep.
And whereabouts are you? Because you look like you're tenting.
I'm sat in a petrol station, just west of Turin.
Oh, you gone to watch the Giro?
No.
So what are you doing it for then?
No, so we've got some racing coming up. I can tell everyone a bit more about it next week. But yeah, we've got some racing coming up, which is fantastic. But it's I'm just looking over at the dash on the. We're about 7.5 hours into this journey now, so not too long to go. But yeah,
and
we're a bit like this.
You've had some stories with the French tolls as well, but we won't go into that one too much.
Oh yeah. I'm the police's best friend, so
yeah. Right. But we're about time to introduce our guest for today. So he's been a teammate of mine last year. He's a Red Bull junior, and he's racing in his second year of FIA F3 this year with Trident. So yeah, here to talk about that all the way from Monaco. On the same weekend as the Formula One is finally back at the Principality. It's Jack Doohan. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
I hear you've got quite a good view looking over the track there.
Quite a decent view, especially for traffic. I can get on the radio, tell the guys what's going on, and see where we need to be, see where we need to place the cars. But I got an awesome spot for the Grand Prix and for the support races, because to be honest, they're probably going to be more exciting, unfortunately, than the GP. But obviously 99% of the 30% capacity spectators that would be coming here do not really care about what happens during the day anyway.
Yeah, you can be like the spotter, like you get an IndyCar.
Exactly.
Which one would you be though, for Max or for Sergio?
I reckon Max would just tell me to tell me to get lost.
You can throw everyone.
So I'd probably bid for Sergio, to be honest.
Yeah, I reckon I've never actually asked the question. You probably don't even know the answer to it, but I reckon you could probably hire out your balcony for quite a lot of money.
I was thinking that, but I wasn't just thinking the balcony. I was thinking the whole apartment. I was thinking for next year, it's definitely got to.
Yeah.
I just need to find a spot. If I have a race weekend on, or because to get other accommodation outside will probably be just as expensive as what I'd be bringing in.
Yeah.
So if I have a cost-free place to stay for the weekend, you could get, I reckon, for the spot, you could get a quite decent income for the weekend or for the week.
Could you not, like, say if you're racing F2 next year or whatever, you could get the team to book you in the hotel around the corner and then just rent out your van and pay for the mortgage for the year for a month or two.
Exactly. No, it would be a good idea. But if I was racing here, I reckon it'd be, especially considering the F2 paddock's so close by. I reckon it would be gold having a place to come back and crash to. That's so close by. So, but it definitely is in the memory to think for things upcoming. Maybe for the F8.
Yeah, that's a good one. That'd be a good one. Hopefully, I'll be racing that.
Exactly.
Well, you got a place to stay then, Jake.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. Why did I not think about that? Actually, I wouldn't have been allowed because of all the bubble regulations and stuff. But maybe next year, if COVID's not a thing, we could look into that, Jack. But yeah, so you've just come back from the mid-season one. Technically, it's mid-season, but it's only after one race test for F3 at a ref, didn't you? How was that?
Yeah, it was quite decent. Obviously, we don't race at Jerez, so anything, Jerez kind of, towards anything in Jerez is not really relevant, considering it's not going to be in conditions, yes, because it's quite hot, but anything towards that type of circuit, will not be relevant. So, but the perk of it was that it was quite hot and 25 degrees plus, so that's what we're going to be kind of getting when we head to Paul Ricard. So it was great to get onto the medium compounded tyre and see how things behave when temperatures are that high again.
Yeah, nevertheless, I mean, I know, like you say, you're not racing there, so it's not as critical, but you topped both sessions on day one, right? Or
on day one, yeah. wasn't obviously the plan. Went in with quite, an open mind to, we could end up 15th, we could end up, 5th, but in the end, we knew regardless of where we ended up that we would have good, a decent pace
Yeah.
as a whole, not just as the test. And yeah, the things that we're trying obviously worked, and somehow, yeah, ended up not somehow, but things just come together, and maybe some other people who were testing didn't obviously get exactly what they were looking for. And yeah, we ended up topping day one, but in the end, how it goes with testing, and you've had it firsthand.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it was more important to an aspect for me was race runs, which we focused more on day two. And to be honest, even before going to Barcelona, we did a few race runs, and they were quick, but you never really know, considering 5 kg of fuel, or even 4 kg of fuel in a race run situation can change how the balance of the car and how your pace is, obviously, a lot. So before going into the races, I was quite skeptical on, okay, I've qualified, at the race weekend I qualified second, but am I actually going to be able to run with the pace? And obviously I was able to in Barcelona, and then the race pace in Jerez was good as well. So
Yeah.
Do you guys find Jerez a good testing track?
I quite like the circuit. It's quite quick, so I would love for it to be on the calendar. And for testing, I think for conditions, it's awesome. I can't think of a MotoGP race that I've watched there, or I haven't really watched a Formula One race there. But any event that I've seen there, I've never seen it raining. So for consistent conditions and for decent weather, I think it's although for it being quite far away, I think it's quite a good test track.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually really like RF to drive. I mean, I feel like I spent half of my career there when I was 2014 to 2016 or something like that. It was Formula Renault or Formula 3 European testing all the time there. But as you say, I think it's a really good track to drive. It's a good track for the current Formula 3 car, I think, as well, with Pirelli's as well. I think in the race situation, it would be interesting to see. But yeah, I think it's probably a bit tight for the likes of Formula 1 nowadays. But yeah, if we quickly touch on Barcelona, obviously a good first weekend overall. I know obviously you had an issue, I think, in race one off getting over the line or something like that. So maybe not got all the points you would have liked, but I think probably even for your confidence, qualifying P2, finishing P2 was probably quite encouraging.
Yeah, it was, obviously good to finally get a result, you could say, in Formula 3. Yeah, disappointing to end, obviously second. And obviously, I was quite chuffed with second, but considering, I was quickest on both first sets of tires, and then the third set, a bit of traffic in the last sector, and then you only miss out by 6 thousandths. Can you think about how much?
Is that what it was?
Yeah. So that was a bit, that was obviously, like, I was annoyed because I was like, oh, if I didn't obviously have the car in front, it was warming, I would have pulled it. But then it's like, okay, but you've also P2.
Yeah.
Can't be two. It was a bit, it was mixed emotions.
Yeah.
And then Saturday was not great off the line. Dropped the clutch and didn't move. So slightly crap myself for a bit. And then so I had to release the right clutch. And then so I was outside the top 20. And with this, obviously the new reverse grid, well, it's the same obviously format as we had last, but just now with 2 races. So ideally, it would have been good to finish 8th or 9th from my 11th grid starting spot, to then focus on race 2. But because of that, then most guys starting from, say, who qualified 13th to 20th, all put new tires because it's their one shot, obviously, for race 2 to get inside the top 12. So then, as hard as it is to pass around Barcelona, once I, kind of got into, I think, 18th, 17th, then I just didn't have the traction out of the chicane that they did to overtake. So 17th, and then a bit of luck in race 2 with people going off, and then got a couple points for P8. So disappointed with sad day. But all in all, race 2 to finish second, quite happy.
Yeah, we touched on it. We had Dan on recently, Tictum from F2. And we touched on the new format with F3 and F2. It seems quite, I mean, obviously from afar, to be honest, before the first F2 race, I didn't do so much research into like what position you needed to be for which race, and you know what, whether it's top 10 or top 12 reversed or whatever. But it seems like it's quite chaotic would be the word I would use. It seems like there's a lot of opportunities for the guys that maybe like you said, probably around 10th to 16th, 17th in qualifying or whatever.
Would have been ace for me last year.
Yeah.
would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Be late.
The actual race, it seems like it does throw a little bit of a curveball into the mix, as you say, with like people using new tires at different points in the weekend. How do you think, and the fact that obviously you're now having less weekends overall with more races, so how do you think that's kind of people are going to take that? Do you think it's an advantage for you, or disadvantage to have less weekends to sort of get into the rhythm?
I think it's an advantage for in 1.7 round, 7 less weekends, and also I don't think it's an advantage or a disadvantage, because in the end you get more track time when you're actually on track. So there's no real advantage there for a second year driver. And then, you have a disadvantage kind of with the race format as a second, not a disadvantage, but you don't get, anything from it, where, your P10 pace setters to, P15, P16, all of a sudden, they're in the shot to start to start race one on pole and also win it, when depending on, because they will usually, if they have that, then they're going to go new, where your guys starting 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, who will be in the top 6 for the feature race, will not be going new, because they'll focus, their priorities are different. So then that gives you that 2-3 tenths a lap that you would mainly lose in some areas, but you get that out of the tire. So yeah, I think in the end, it's just finishing the race is always in the points. And as well, that's where I was kind of annoyed, because I know that race 2, or just my kind of approach to the weekend, I was not being safe, but from how I saw the Bahrain GP was going to be, and how F2 handled it, just making sure I could finish in the points all 3 races. And so my overtakes would have just been clean, fully around with DRS, or if it's on the inside and it's a clean move, then okay. So with what happened in race 2, I felt like I could have had quite a good shot to be, if I had that good race 1, to be in that shot for at least a minimum. I think I would have been an easy podium with what happened, but a win was definitely would have been on the cards, but obviously there was speculation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if we think about how it would have been last year, if you would have qualified P2, you would have started race 1 effectively from P2, and you would have finished P2, and then you would have been starting P9, I think it was last year. But in the pocket that you've already got those points from the weekend, so you can effectively, the mindset is
you're a bit more relaxed.
I think relaxed, but also you can take a bit more risk if you need to. Whereas if you have what ended up happening, and you have now 2 races that might be a bit compromised or whatever, but then you've got your last race of the weekend, but that's the big points, and you start in P2. It's like it's a bit different now, because you've got to maximize that. You haven't got another race after that in the weekend, and if you if you had a poor race 1 or race 2, you can't be probably, if you want to fight for the championship anyway, you can't probably be seen to taking silly risks in that last race. So I think it does alter it a bit. And I guess the other thing is to say that with no F2 on the weekend, the track's a little bit, maybe, is it in a different spot, do you think? I mean, being the main attention as well outside of Formula 1 is probably quite cool.
No, but it hasn't really changed too much, to be honest. Because you have in being in the attention, I don't think it's just structured, because now obviously you have the Formula Renault, and then we'll have W Series. So I don't feel any difference of being from when F2 was there. Obviously you are the only race before the Grand Prix, or now say that Formula Regional, so you call it, is before you. So you kind of you're 1 spot moved up, but there still is F2, but it's just not on that weekend. So but touching base on that obviously how you said on, with race 3, and
Yeah.
and if you had a bad race 1, race 2 like I did, then it kind of on the start for race 3, with ending up going in 4 wide, I was not going to risk anything, which kind of then put me back
Yeah.
to 4th,
Yeah.
because kind of the braking, and Dennis was moving, and Nanini, I don't know, spoke with the one of the stewards for Nanini going into the pit lane off the line to come in, and apparently it's just race 1, or I don't know why they said they kind of let it go because of the race start or whatever, but yeah, it kind of then put me into a position where I felt like all those 3 were going at it, so if I didn't back out,
Do you,
there would have been a crash. So
do you guys think like with the new structure of the 3 race format, do you think there's going to be tactics to try and like, maybe like if we sacrifice race 1, race 2 a little bit, and to benefit positions for race 3? Do you think that will happen?
yeah, well, there is certainly tactics already.
Mm.
If you qualify top 3 for race 1, you don't want to move forward, or it's not like you don't want to. If you have the opportunity to, get move some places forward, but ideally to sit 8th or 9th, and be in a position to set the quickest lap of the race and get, say, 4 points or 3 points, 5 points, and then race 2 you're starting in the top 3, or not top 3, but you're starting in the top 5, and then you're in a proper shot to go for get a podium finish for race 2. So then you get a P2, P3, or ideally P1 for race 2, and then you're starting on the front row for race 3, where you'll probably be then having your new tires with your best chance. So that's a weekend consisting of 12 with 5, 17 plus 18, a 37-point weekend, which no one got in Barcelona. Barcelona. So that's an ideal weekend. Saying, or not ideal, but saying you came, ninth, first and second, or second and third. So
Yeah,
I think it's about piecing everything together.
What is the leading points at the moment in the championship?
I think the leading points is 32.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put in my head. I'm trying to think how that differs. One extra race compared to last year, where your sort of championship winning points is like around, I'd say 23 to 25.
Yeah.
Last year
Per weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is bumping it up a little bit, I guess, even with the grid situation.
Yeah. No, like you think normally, you think, oh yeah, 3 races, all right, this is going to boost the championship, big time. But because of the 3 races and the format, that one of those races for your title contenders or quickest guys in the grid is only going to be 1 point, 2 points.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that happens in race 2, because if you move forward and you get to P3, then you're only going to be starting, you'll be starting the 9th for race 2, where then your top, quick guys will be at the front, so you won't be able to move forward. So it's not as much as you think.
Yeah.
And you've got to finish all those races too.
Yeah, I mean, something else. I'm not going to put you on the spot by any means, considering obviously we raced together last year in HWA, but I am going to be vague enough and say, obviously you seem a little bit more comfortable with the car at Trident this year. You seem happier with it, or at least happier to find the limit of it anyway. What's kind of like, what would you put that down to, do you think?
I think, the way they, for me, I just seem to get along with the team better. Atmosphere inside the team, and seem to just gel. People have their own people and fit in different crowds better, and I just seem to fit in better with the Trident team, and work really well together. Nice atmosphere. Everyone there, not saying that HW didn't, but every single person there wants to win as badly as I do, and their passion to always be sim sessions, regardless, karting days and test sessions. Everything's just till the right last minute of, all right, we actually, we got to go to bed here, boys, or we're getting takeaways and things like this. So everything is to the last fine detail. Number one, and the way I feel, Prema or Trident or HWART, I feel like the cars, as set up stiffer. And ART, like you said, was more understeery, or Prema's known to have heaps of oversteer and more rotation. And for me, my driving style, as you and me had quite different driving styles, works well with the Trident car. So then I can maximize my potential because the car allows me to.
Yeah.
In places where the HWA car, worked well for you, but I couldn't then maximize my potential in it because I wasn't able to use it where I needed to.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get that. I mean, I've spoke to various people over the years about, how F3 and even F2 now, people might look at it and go, well, a car's a car or setup's a setup, you need to adapt to it. But I don't think any driver will tell you, and I'm sure you were the same at HWA, and me, I was definitely like this when I was at ART. I never said that, I could not adapt to the car or I could not try and get more from the car. But the problem is you don't have the track time to sort of experience how to get the most out of that car. If you were doing Formula Renault or European Formula 3 in the past and you had a problem or a feeling that you had with the car that you didn't like, you would have the opportunity to practice and improve it. Whereas with F3 and F2, you have 45 minutes free practice. You don't have the track. The track's in a different condition to where you are in qualifying. Then in qualifying, it's a different time of day, so it's not the same after practice. And you can never really get on top of it, and you're just always kind of doing your best, and you don't have the sensors on the car that you would have in other championships, or definitely what F1 has, to sort of see where the goalposts are really. So I completely get what you mean, and you often see people just jump in different teams in F3 and F2 and just fly, or do the opposite even, after a good year.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's the reason. It doesn't mean that a driver just all of a sudden or one setup is miles better than the other, or a driver just didn't do the job. It's the nature of the beast, really, I think.
Yeah. No, I think like an example I use is Barcelona last year. I think in qualifying, we were, split by a few hundredths, ninth and 10th. And then obviously, things aren't always perfect in the first set, and you need to make an adjustment for the second set. And whereas, we kind of obviously talk to the engineers and they're like, okay, what do you want to change? And, where say you knew what to change, I think, you just drop the rear pressures. But I was like, all right, I think I'm going to, reduce the front wing or whatever. I didn't really know. I reported the balance, but I wasn't able to get, unfortunately, anything back. So I kind of had to make the decision and change, and I just didn't do the right choice. And you ended up qualifying, I think, in the top 3, and I went back to 16th. And
yeah.
You're in a completely different ballpark. I think then you're 6 cents up the road, and it's just little things like that obviously, some teams can help you with. Now I'm able to report balance, and then I don't really have to fill in that gap. But some teams just work differently like that. And yeah, so that was obviously now I can obviously with the experience, say in Barcelona, going for that third set of tires, I could say that I needed a little bit less front wing. I actually did, because T3 wasn't flat, the rear was moving, and I wanted the high speed a little bit smoother, and I could say, okay, that is actually what I need. It's not the rear because I have good traction, so and it works. But last year I was still quite new to it all, and you know exactly what to do. Where I was like, this is the balance. I don't actually know what to change.
Yeah, and a good driver will always admit that they might need to adapt or change the driving style. But the problem, like I say, the problem in this championship, you just don't get the time to sort of improve that and sort of build on something. I mean, there's a few drivers that but come to mind. One being David Beckman, when he was in 2018, he started with Yenza in the year, and he was sort of between 8th and sort of 12th, I would say, when we had 20, I can't remember how many cars we had, like 21, 22. And he changed the Trident after 2 races or 3 races or something like that. And he was like poles, wins for the rest of the year. And he finished 3rd or 4th in the championship, I think, after a really bad start. And then he changed to ART for 2019. And he was nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Couldn't get on with it. I imagine if you had asked him at the time, he would have been saying a lot about what you might have been saying last year, a lot about what I was saying when I had my year with ART in 2018. And then he goes back to Trident last year, and he has a really good year again. And it's not to say that Trident are massively better than ART or the other way around. I think a lot of it is just that if it suits your natural driving style, so you don't have to adapt and you're not getting all these question marks thrown at you about what you need to do with your driving. And you could just build, it's building blocks, and you have the confidence, and it just snowballs from there, really. So I completely understand why you're sort of feeling naturally straight away more comfortable with the Trident car.
Yeah, and it's like, Vesti, I think, is a prime example as well. He
Yeah.
had the most feature race wins last year. All his wins were actually, 3 feature race wins, pole in Austria, in the Prema, and he was, quite strong. A few 3 or 4 DNFs, I think, in the frame of a couple of rounds, kind of hurt him big time in the championship. But he was real strong, and then he's moved to ART for this year. And not saying that he's not strong, but outlining, he doesn't seem to have that raw pace that he did in the Prema.
Yeah, because he's probably having to adapt a little bit. There's something he doesn't quite like. He's not having the time on track to sort of tell the team where he needs the car, because the goalpost is always moving. So yeah, I completely understand that. I want to well, not quickly, but I want to pull it back to how you kind of got into racing, because we can't obviously not mention your dad and what he achieved in the sport, well, in two-wheel side of the sport. So I think, a lot of people might be wondering why, how your career started. Did you try motorbikes? If you did, why didn't it work? And why you chose to do karting and cars?
From what I can remember, it was always, from a young age, was always bikes and everything to do with bikes. When I was 3, because my dad and Michael Schumacher were quite close. They, lived in neighboring apartments here in Monaco, trained together. So when I was 3, I think my Christmas present for me and my sister were 2 go-karts. But before that, as well, even when that kind of came through, it was, the opposite of it as it is now. It was like, all right, I want bikes, even though it's such a young age, but it was just bikes, and, I'd kart a little bit on the side. But we have a track at home, and when I'd kart then, and I'd run out of fuel, and I'd get, if I ran out of fuel on the other side of the circuit when I was 3 or 4, I'd, kind of crap myself and be like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, so I kind of put the kart away a little bit and was riding dirt bikes. And I think on my 5th birthday, well, I thought it was my 5th birthday, but back at that age, it was whenever Dad was home was kind of my birthday. So I think it was actually in February.
Yeah.
And yeah, I broke my leg just with a few mates around, and kind of got T-boned. And that kind of then, I think I was scared, but also Dad, was kind of not too keen on it. So we put the bike away and shifted to, pump track BMX.
Yeah.
So like not the trick BMX, but like the do you know what I'm
Alex
talking about?
Alex
Yeah,
might know.
like they do at the Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah, the racing.
Yeah, they just call it
BMX.
BMX racing, don't they?
Yeah, it was a being. I think so. So I did that for a couple of years from when I was, after that till I was 7. And then I think, Jake, you might know, like Zane Goddard. Do you
I've heard of that. He did British F3. I swear he did.
I think he did a bit of British F4 and Formula Renault and so on. But he was, another Aussie abroad. Not anymore, but yeah, he was a mate from school a few years up, and he started karting, and kind of, we had a track, so he brought it over. And at that age, what your mates are doing, you kind of, you want to be doing. So, and for you guys, it would have been, obviously for you when you were younger, it was probably footy, and your mates were playing footy at school. And so, you got back into karting, and it kind of just went from there.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's like we see so many often now, like in especially the car side of it, with drivers that have family surnames that raced in the sport before. I don't think we really ever see someone with a family member that was quite famous or well known in the car side do the opposite and go to motorbikes. I think that would be quite cool to see. But yeah, how was, so you think it was the crash that kind of set that, or stop that from going anywhere
I think so, yeah. Well, especially, at that age compared to now, now if you want to go ride a bike, or you want to go, drive a car, you go down and drive, and, you get your dirt bike and you go out, or you get your car and you go for a drive. Where at that age, you're very dictated from your parents, and it's not like, you don't have, you have obviously a say, but it's very, very little. So I guess, kind of with the bike not being in the picture, and then because it was my first year of, or not school, it was like prep. We have below your first year, so you have prep, year 1, year 2, and I went into prep in a wheelchair for my first day. So I think then it was kind of like, all right, let's just try and get school kind of moving here. And then it was kind of mid-year. Then I had the BMX racing. And your mind just kind of, at that age, it's like, oh, this is the cool thing to do. And I wanted to be, a BMX racer. But still, I think after that was Supercross and dirt bikes. Even after the crash, it was still, I remember like a little career day. Then I came in with my boots and all this heavy kit and a helmet. And so I was still very, in my mind towards that. But I think, it just kind of, it differed and went a different path.
Yeah. So what do you think the turning point was where it was like, okay, this is, I assume it was karting. So I assume you did karting in Australia. So what was that turning point where you knew that, okay, it's karting from now on, it's four wheels?
I think, it was always, especially, your mates are doing it and they're doing it every weekend. And, I was 7. And so I was always wanting the kart at home, and I wanted to race. And, my dad actually, said to me that you weren't allowed to start till you were 8, where you could start when you're 7, but he knew that, once he started, it would, it kind of wasn't going to stop. So he gave himself, 1 more year of kind of freedom before we got into it. And from when I was 8, it was just, most weekends. I don't think it was most weekends, because from when I was 8 till I was 12, I think maybe 11, 12, I was still playing rugby as well. So it was still kind of, something to do on the weekends, and it's a bit of fun. But then it started to get real serious, winning the first Australian championship. And then it was, karting the main priority, or it was always kind of the main priority, but, just full focus towards that.
So do you think that crash, sorry to bring it back to that, but, it's in a way, obviously, like you say, you were very influenced by what your family and friends, and I imagine specifically your dad would have sort of ushered you into at that age, or what path to follow. And obviously, with the career your dad had, and obviously the injuries he had and crashes he had, it's quite, I don't want to say ironic, but it's like I imagine to see his son in that sort of position that he was so often find himself in and having to deal with. I imagine that probably was the reason why he was a bit worried about putting you on a bike, which seems quite it's not ironic, it's the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
I completely understand. Seeing obviously with his amount of crashes and how he ended up, and then seeing his 5-year-old son obviously with a broken leg and lying on the ground, he's probably like not getting what's the word I'm looking for? Not getting.
We're struggling for words here, both of us,
Yeah,
aren't we? Alex, save us.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to have gone blank.
He's getting flashbacks. That's not the word I'm looking for.
That's
but
it.
I'm just gonna, getting flashbacks from, maybe when he was racing and thinking, oh no, I don't want my 5-year-old son to be already going basically in the position that I was in, and having a breaking bones at such a young age. So I think was really maybe put that to the side. And
I think things happen for a reason almost, don't they? Like it steers you one way or the other. Because Jake, I would have been a professional footballer.
What?
Didn't you know this?
No.
Right.
Well, everyone would have been a professional footballer in the UK.
No. But like, I actually would have been.
Well, I can't. Well, right. This isn't about you, but go on.
It's a good story though. So basically, it was end of my first year of racing, so like 2012. Yeah, end of 2012, and I was still playing football on the weekends. And we're from Birmingham, and the best team in Birmingham is Birmingham City.
No, it's not.
Well, it's
not. Don't insult me.
We won't start this now, but
You're both from me.
Yeah,
we both are. Yeah.
He's on the wrong side of Birmingham, and I'm on the right side of it. But we'll leave it at that.
So, Solihull, mate. You're not even Birmingham.
You're Warwickshire. You're not even in. You're not. Right. This is. We're not doing this now. So basically, I'd finished my first year of racing, still playing football at the weekends, and doing summer camp stuff. And I I got invited to it wasn't a tryout. I won't lie. It was below a tryout for the Blues Academy thing. It was like a summer session there or something. Anyway, broke my leg a week before. Couldn't go, could I?
Oh, you broke it on a bike?
Yep. Broke it racing. Couldn't go.
So then you didn't do what Jack and Jack's dad would have done, which was that as a sign. You carried on doing it.
No, I carried on doing it, and I'm still injuring myself to this day. But
yeah,
you go, I would have been a professional football player. So things happen for a reason.
That's the point of your story.
It's the moral of the story. Yeah.
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 I would have been a professional footballer as well, but
I think every British person could say that, couldn't they? Yeah, everyone from when they were like 5 till 10 or 5 till 15 had football.
Yeah. At 9 out of 10, I reckon it's got to be close to 9 out of 10 boys and girls, but mostly boys. Let's be honest. Would have said that they were close to being a professional footballer when they were about 13, 14, 15, 16.
I was just about to sign. What would you say? I was just about to. I was so close to be signed. Is that were you one of those kids?
Yeah, so close. That close.
Oh mate, I was
one scout away from making it.
Yeah. I was until I didn't even have an injury. I can't even blame that.
Yeah, see, at least for me,
I had that fatal ankle roll.
Yeah, exactly. My dad's got that story. He said he was going to be a professional footballer until he broke his ankle. So it's all the same, mate.
Yeah, all the same.
But yeah, let's. So obviously you did a bit. Just quickly touch. You did some karting, and you won the Australian Championship. You said, I think you said.
Yeah, so I won that in 14, 15, and 16 before moving to Europe.
As you do. 3 years in a row.
I don't think. Well, you didn't do karting, did you? Or you didn't really?
I did, but only 3 years of it, and it wasn't at the level most guys in the UK go to.
You were just too good for that.
Yeah, mate. I thought I'd save my energy.
You were one of those blokes that come into the corner with a little bit of choke,
Yeah. Yeah, a bit of a neck lean with left arm.
Yeah, you're
actually his right arm, but I'm on about.
You were all good points. Saving it for the final.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, mate. Yeah, but I mean, we've had Marcus is Kiwi, but that sort of area of the world, there's quite a few successful drivers nowadays. So I imagine that was quite a competitive series. Yeah,
no, Australia in the end, they put in the beginning it was like quite a mess. They had quite old engines. Everyone was buying. It'd be much of the same, but everyone had 30 engines. Each there were these old like Yamaha like lawnmower engines and the Comas, and it was just all kind of weird though. One-off round Australian Championships, and I think the cadet categories and the lower junior categories weren't actually allowed to have Australian Championships because parents were getting in punch-ons and that over their sons, so they kind of banned that. But then a few people took over the board of Karting Australia and put in a 5-round structure and got some mini rock engines in for the cadet, some Iamis for the juniors, and some OK and OKJs for the Premier Senior and Junior classes. So that's when it kind of got some structure in 14, 15, 16, and now it's real quite competitive, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems. But
still, it was I think in 2016 I came over to Europe for a couple of races, and I'd kind of just won. I think I'd won the first 2 rounds of Australian Kart Championship. I came over and entered with Tony Kart in the World Series karting. And I didn't make the final. I think I was running like third last in my heats, and it's just like you go from being thinking not you're on top of the world, thinking you're the man. And you go there and you just absolutely get flogged.
Yeah.
Like, you are.
Karting nowadays in Europe is just it's like mini Formula One. The money they spend, the time they spend, on track. The teams themselves are like proper professional outfits using data and 2017 with Ricky Flynn, we were testing. Every circuit that we went to. We were usually, because they have, you're not allowed to test 4 weeks in advance. So,
we were testing for round 3 after round 1, and before round 1 for round 2, and some things like this. But we're testing it every single circuit. Alahama, Finland, which is like 3 flights away in a 4-hour drive, and doing 2 days there, and then in Sweden, and it's just insane the amount of days that you're doing.
Yeah. And then that was about the time, wasn't it, when you got picked up by Red Bull?
Yeah. So that was, I think it was after the European Championship that in 2017. So I had a shocking first 2 rounds, and the last 3 rounds were decent. I won the last round. I think I came third in the championship, and then the top 3, who were Johnny Edgar, Harry Thompson, who's no longer a Red Bull Junior, myself, who kind of got put into the program. But I was already an athlete prior to that.
Yeah. So how was that feeling to sort of like get that call or email, whatever it is nowadays, email?
Well, I think at that or then, and I was 14. It's not like I was that young, but I didn't really know to an extent, what the junior team was, or what stage or background that kind of was. So it was not only, I think it was kind of only later that year when we went and we were doing, say, physical tests and going into meetings, and kind of the F4 season was starting with a couple of preseason tests, that you start to realize kind of what's at stake, and if you do well, what you can kind of go forward and achieve. But obviously, it's quite a difficult program. Well, not difficult. You obviously, you succeed, you do well. It's awesome. But if you don't, or if you have a difficult year, or so on, then it's quite the opposite.
Yeah. No, I mean, everyone who will listen to this will be obviously fully aware of all of that. So, but nevertheless, I mean, it's pretty cool to sort of wear all the colours. But I guess it kind of depends, like you say, on results. I'd like to think for your benefit that if you have a good year this year, that would be looking very, very good for your future.
Yeah, I think I'm very grateful and quite lucky to have stayed in the loop for this year, after last year, which was shocking. So yeah, very grateful and thankful to them for allowing me to stay in. And then I think got a really good chance this year to make it happen, and ended round 1, I'd say, on a good foot. Obviously started well with pole, but so seem to be in a good position to be able to hopefully fight for the championship. So it was only a couple of days ago, or yesterday and the day before, looking through the stats from last year, and obviously you had a shocker first 3 rounds, but you scored your 111. You scored 0.5 of a point in race 1 Rebel Ring, but from Silverstone onwards, you scored 111 points from your 111.5 tally, which was the most of any driver from that point on, apart
Don't
from.
remind me.
And
Still bitter.
So I think I've got
still bitter,
yeah. So you were. I was just seeing your results and seeing what is kind of required to get that amount of points, and you stay in that you were, you had 4th, 10th, a 2nd, a 7th, a 1st, a 10th, a 5th, a 1st, a 2nd, a 6th. You're on the podium. If you can be on the podium each round and get a win here and there, then you're on the money.
Yeah.
So and
it's top 5s, mate.
Yeah,
it's top 5s. Honestly, I think the most well known is for not winning the races but being consistent is Esteban Ocon. I think because I think he won the first race in his year of 2015 in Barcelona, and then he didn't win again for the rest of the year. But he just kept on finishing on the podium. Like he ended up finishing. I can't remember if it was comfortable in the end or whether it was last race. But it just goes to show that you don't have to win. Yeah, when it was GP3 exactly, with ART.
Well, look at Joan Mir last year in MotoGP.
Yeah, he only won the last race or last weekend.
It was only like one or.
He might have won one race, but he won before the last round in Portimao, he
Yeah.
qualified. I don't know
That
if
was it.
he
Yeah.
went he was on the piss for that whole week because he qualified he qualified last and didn't even finish the race. So he must have just been up the wall on everything.
Yeah.
They said they had an electronics issue and they couldn't get like the traction control working. Yeah.
Well, his right hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all
Yeah,
over
so
the place,
looking at
wasn't it?
Ocon had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consecutive P2s.
Yeah. I mean,
Nine, like in a
that's
row,
amazing.
P2, 9 in a row.
yeah, and that is a bit of a special scenario, but it nevertheless just goes to show that race wins are important, but consistency matters more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even more so with the free races.
Yeah.
This year. I mean, if you imagine how there's 30 drivers, some very good teams, very good drivers in those teams, and then to say that you've got 7 weekends, 3 races a weekend, it's probably only going to be won by tops 10, 15 points, you would have imagined.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that a lot of that will come into, if you look back at the end of this year, how everyone did in that third or the second race effectively now. The qualifying rate for the feature race effectively is where you qualify. It's what we've always had. And the reverse grid from race 1 is in a way, different now that it comes from your qualifying as well. But that race 2, I think, is going to be where people make the difference.
No, definitely.
So how is the kind of, I mean, it's almost no point asking you this because there's no point for you to focus on it unless you, apart from doing F3 this year. But, I imagine your future goals are pretty much, F2, F1, F1 being the goal, I absolutely assume.
Yeah, obviously. But, we all know how hard and difficult and how many things have to be aligned for that to happen. But yeah, if I can have a good season this year, I have to have a good season this year. So,
yeah,
presuming I do, and then going forward to Formula 2. And then, hopefully if I can then have a good season and then get back in good shapes, properly with Red Bull, then, then I could be in a good position. But yeah, other than that, it's, it's very dependent on the time and, seats available. And, a prime example is, Alex Lynn, who got brought on, he sent an email to Helmut Marko saying, if I win Macau or you sign me, and he won Macau and he got signed, wins GP3, and then, obviously Sainz, I think, just won V8 3.5 and Gasly was doing something and they just didn't have a spot for him. And that's just unfortunately how it rolls sometimes. And so, things, you have to have a bit of luck. You have to have things, a lot of things aligned. So obviously, realizing that and taking all that into consideration, but nevertheless, as long as I do the job on track and can be putting in results, then that's all I can do.
You've said a couple of times like it's important to have a good year this year. Do you like the pressure of knowing you've got to have a good year?
Yeah, I think I think it's not like you love the pressure. It's, I think, just dealing with it in the correct way and trying to really be relaxed and not let that pressure cause anything. I think obviously having the pressure goes away slightly when you have a bit of confidence in your package, knowing that you can a bad result or I think Barcelona free practice was terrible, right? The balance was out the window and things were really off, but I was 8th, where I feel like last year, for a number of reasons, for things to be perfect would be for the package and not being able to adapt the car, be 10th, 11th, and maybe squeezing into the top 9, and out of the window you'd be bottom half of the top 20, or early 20s. So knowing that obviously gives you confidence as well, knowing that, all right, even if the thing's completely out of the window, we'll be 8th.
I think that is such a confidence boost when your bad days were good days last year.
Yeah.
Like, I always loved that. Like, knowing that, like, oh, I'm having a bad day here, crap day. Okay, P10. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Well, that's what makes a championship,
Yeah.
or how I would use it for the championship assault. But I think I've never been a part of an F1 program, but honestly, I've always thought that it can only be because you do the job. You've got
Oh,
that's sort of
nothing.
path. You
Jake, you're gonna
you win F3.
Jake, you're gonna have to repeat that.
Am I?
Oh,
You're lagging big time.
you're lagging. 1 minute. Let me make a note of the
Should I
time.
say? Should I say, bro?
Am I glitching? Yeah, one second.
I've made a note for the time, Jake, so I can edit it.
Have you?
Oh, Jack, you can hear me all right, can't you?
Yeah, you kind of just glitched there for a
One
second.
sec.
Thank God it's not me. Oh, he's trying something.
Hang on. Am I back now? I think I'll be back.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I'm on my personal hotspot now. Sorry, about 3 or 4 times a day the Wi-Fi in this hotel just drops out.
Is it dropped out?
I can hear you, but you're not moving. You're kind of.
Yeah,
Oh, now you're back.
That's
Oh, you're
better.
glitching. You're lagging.
Has it dropped out while you're playing Ultimate Team yet?
Yeah, it has twice. I was losing 7-0.
Yeah, the connection dropped out then. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Shall I just start that again? You can edit it.
Just say what you were saying.
Yeah.
Wait, actually,
Yeah, I
can you
mean,
just,
that's
1 minute. Because then I can see it when I'm editing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's how you obviously build a championship. Sort of when those what you think are bad days are actually, good days, effectively. But I've never been a part of an F1 program, junior program myself. But I've always assumed that it would just only be positive pressure. Or I feel like it's different when you're in it. I know, but I feel like I would only take it as positive pressure because you win this year in F3. You're gonna get the support of Red Bull. Basically, I know what we just said with Alex Lynn, but it's a very extreme case. If you win, you are going to get your chance. If you don't win, yeah, maybe there's an issue with Red Bull, but if you're not with an F1 program and you don't win, you're not going anywhere anyway. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really I think what we all want, what I've always thought any driver would want is just the chance, that if you prove yourself and you do the job, that you get rewarded for it. And that's what we all ask for. So I know Red Bull are harsh, but you do the job, you do the job at the end of the day. I think that's all you have to be thinking about.
Definitely.
But yeah, let's quickly just before we sort of start to wrap up, I want to talk to you, obviously being a Red Bull junior, about the F1 title fight this year. So we're jumping on that bandwagon because anything F1 gets viewed nowadays. But yeah, how do you see it going? Obviously, it seems like Mercedes have edged it so far.
Jay would say that as he helps Mercedes. So
I do. I can't say anything about it.
Should we put like a disclaimer before the start of this? Like, oh, Jack's a Red Bull athlete and Jake works for Mercedes. So who do you think they're going to choose?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mercedes are playing the game. They've always had the game. They've always had the upper hand on not the upper hand, but they're not as bad as they're saying they are. Obviously, Red Bull are bringing a good solid fight, but Lewis is showing his true colors and what he really who he really is and how he's and why he is where he is and why he's achieved what he has. So yeah, I think if he can go that extra bit if he needs to, but I don't feel like he has to as such as yet. And obviously in these difficult situations that he's been faced with in the previous rounds, he's overcame them and showed why he is the all-time, you could say on statistics, the all-time greatest. So yeah, he's doing an exceptional job at the moment. Red Bull are bringing a really good fight and seem to be the strongest they've been in a few years. So I'm hoping that Max and also Sergio can equal with Max and get there, and so he can play a good role in the strategy. And then hopefully Max can push for race wins and make make Mercedes work hard. Not that they don't work hard. Nothing against you, Jake, and your endless amount of days that you probably do for them.
It's all me, mate.
But yeah, and kind of and get something good to watch. Not that it's not good to watch, but have something to look forward to this kind of thing that they're trying to put on now. The whole round 5 Max Fest.
Is
and
is
just-
this is definitely Lewis's best start to the season, isn't it? Ever?
Yeah,
It's both of theirs, I think. Points wise, I think it's both Max's and Lewis's best start. I think the point you made about Sergio is the sort of what I kind of take away from it at the moment, because I think Lewis, Max, Mercedes, Red Bull, I think it's very even between the cars and the drivers actually. Maybe Lewis tiny bit more rounded at the moment, but it's that second seat in each team that seems to make the difference, I think, because you look at the Spanish Grand Prix, if you have Sergio sitting in Lewis's pit window for that second pit stop, Max wins the race.
Yeah, because Sergio would have been a lot more difficult to overtake. That would have given Max 3-4 more laps, plus probably 4 or 5 seconds, and then he would have been laughing. So yeah, that's making it a little bit more difficult, but let's just hope that Sergio can get to the grips of this, as they talk of extremely oversteery rotation car balance that they seem to all say there is, and which I'm sure he can, hopefully, and or try and adapt it towards him, because it has seemed quite difficult for any driver who's kind of hopped in that seat. So maybe they've got to try and change it towards the driver and give him a bit more of a helping hand. Not saying that they're not doing that already, but yeah.
I'd love that.
Wait, can you give me guys 1 minute, 1 second?
Yeah.
Well, then let me just make it. Do you want me to wrap up, or do you want to wrap up?
I've literally just sent you a message.
Okay, you can wrap up because you've never done it.
No, you do, because I don't know what on the spot like that. I'll mess it
up. I think just do a quick one on so what's your prediction for the championship win? I think we'll just do a quick championship win.
Can you close that door,
bro?
That'll do it. That's fine, mate.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right,
that's cool.
Do you want to make your finger clicking noise? That's the proper weird one. That I don't understand that.
What do you mean? You don't understand how to do that?
No, I understand it. It's just like I would never have assumed that would help you edit a video, but I guess
it doesn't come out in the sound graphs.
Yeah, you see the spikes, and then it's like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, you just did it twice, so.
Oh no.
I think that's definitely the main thing with the fight at the moment between the two teams and the two drivers. But so if you could choose, I know you're probably going to be a bit biased, but if you could choose, just who do you think is going to win the championship? Just a short answer, and then we'll sort of leave it there to win who's going to win the championship this year in F1.
Feeling opinion, obviously who I want. I want Red Bull to win. I'd love Max to win. Love to see the AlphaTauris obviously into the top 10. I think Gasly has got a good shot of being in that P6 as well, P5 even as possible. Being in the mix with the Ferraris, but their paces seem to get better. But based on statistics, which is what it comes down to and what's on paper, at the minute, Lewis has got the upper hand. Not in package, but he's doing the better job. So at the moment, you would say, looking at the moment, who's to win the title, you'd say, 4 rounds in or whatever we are, 5 rounds in, Lewis has had the best start of the season that he's ever had. He seems to be on form. But then you can also say, okay, Red Bull get their strategy right. Not saying that they haven't, but maybe having that second car a bit further up and being able to help out with things, then Max can be a serious threat too. So not gonna pinpoint.
Oh, he's gonna sit on the fence.
He's sat on the fence fully there, mate. I love it. I think it'll come down to a DNF or something like that.
Could be a 2016 remake, Rosberg, Hamilton.
I think I think also the role of the second driver is going to play a big part this year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can see there's a bit going on between, Max's T1 overtake for Lewis in Imola, and then Lewis kind of running Max out of road in Portimao T3, I think it is, and then Max again, he's kind of quite a big lunge into T1 in Barcelona. So there seems to be a bit of fire there. So hopefully that can turn into something good.
Yeah. No, well, Jack, thanks for your time today. It was a real short notice one, everyone, and Jack's pulled through. So we really, really appreciate that. And we also really appreciate everyone for listening, the support over the last, what will this be, episode 14, 15 when it goes out, Jake?
Yeah, exactly. 2 months in, more or less, just over 2 months. It's
been mega. So we're going to keep these coming to you. And if you want to check out any of Jack's stuff, follow him at Jack Doohan on Instagram, and make sure you leave a like, comment, rating, everything on the podcast. And if you've got any questions, tweet us, Instagram, anything, and we'll try and fulfill what you want. Maybe even an episode with Callum Eilert. We see that one a lot, Jake. So
you never know. Yeah, that one keeps cropping up.
Yeah, so we'll see what we can do. But anyway, guys, thanks, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.